Remember this. It was a pictorial highlight from the great 8th Army's desert offensive. One of the hundreds of brilliant battle scenes turned by Pathe's own war correspondent cameraman, Terry Ashwood. For 3 years, Ashwood has been in the front line, photographing the war for you and us. Now he's home, and we know you'd like to meet him. And here he is. Welcome home, Terry.
Thanks, Bob. And it's nice to be back, you bet.
I'll bet.
Thank you. Well, the editors talked me into this to tell you about some of my experiences.
Well, that's fine, Terry. Take a chair, because I'm going to grill you.
All right, Bob, go ahead.
Well, tell us how you came by the gong, the Africa Star.
All that? Oh, I woke up one morning, Bob, and it was there.
Well, I'll tell you if he won't. This is something new. Newsreel cameramen, war correspondents, receiving recognition for services in the field.
Well, I look upon this as a fine gesture from the Army to all the newsreel cameramen with whom I've had the pleasure of working. We were all glad to share the dangers of battle with the boys of the 8th Army. They're grand fellows.
Well, Terry, what were the highlights of your 3 hard years from Alamein to Italy?
Well, Bob, there were so many.
I can well imagine.
Let's have a look at the old diary, shall we?
That's a very good idea. Is that it?
This is it. This is the diary.
Supposing we start, Terry, with your experiences in Tobruk.
Against the date August 1941, I have the note, Siege of Tobruk continues. Yet it seemed incredible that pictures like this were possible. How those desert vets lived and fought and died is an unforgettable story. For many weeks I lived with those cave dwellers, a beleaguered garrison.
Yes. Well, now, take a look at yourself, Terry. This is you over 2 years ago.
Yes, at that time I was trying to capture the scene at that great wire fence separating Egypt from Libya. The sight of those tanks and men going into action behind smoke cover was magnificent. Of all the tens of thousands of feet of foam I turned over there, this, I think, shows the Desert Army in its element.
I believe you were nearly captured at one time, Terry.
A few miles from this junction, some of the boys and I were surrounded by the Jerrys 3 times within 24 hours. We felt much the same as our lads did when released from a POW cage after the retaking of Bardia. Several hours after the surrender, great columns of Axis prisoners were on the move, a gloomy, fed-up-looking crowd. We'd just had a heavy storm when I got this picture. It appealed to me as a fitting climax to the excitement of the last few days.
Yes, it was a wonderful picture. I rather think you had more than your share of excitement, Terry.
I escaped injury, too. But malaria, jaundice, and sandfly fever visited me in turn. Sorties into no man's land with the tanks produced thrills galore. But travelling encased in armour, under shell fire, is not nearly as bad as it seems.
Well, I'm glad to have your word for it. Now, one last question. Those press interviews with Monty.
Yes, on more than one occasion, we cameramen had reasons to be grateful to him for his help and advice. In those informal interviews outside his caravan, he spoke to us as man to man.
Just a moment now, Terry. What's this you got on that page there?
Oh, Bob, that's just 1 or 2 telephone numbers.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. And it reminds me I've got a date. So, we're getting along. So long, Bob.
So long, Terry.
So long, everybody.